In this video, I'll show you how to add a user into the Power Platform environment. Now, I have already created a video which shows exactly the steps how to add a user into the Power Platform environment. Now, just to give you an example, now there is an option whereby you can click on add user and you can add that user into the Power Platform environment, provided the user successfully uh, has an active license, is a member of the environment security group, and is enabled in Microsoft Entra ID. So you can go ahead and manually add those users. Now, if it is one, two, or three users, it's all good. You can manually add them. But what if it's more than, say, 50 users? Then for that, what you may do is you will go ahead and go to settings. And instead of adding a user, you will link it to a security group or an M365 group. And then through that, you will be adding those users within the team. Now, here you can go ahead and create a team, and then that team can be linked to this particular uh, environment. Now, the problem with this approach is, say, take for example, if you have a team. So I'll call this as T1 as a team. So let me do one thing. Let me show you that, say, oh, you have a T1 team, and then T1 has, say, 50 users. Now, even if you create a team over here, link it to Microsoft 365 Teams, and add it into the system, like how we have already done for in the previous example, June PP team. Still, the users within that team will not be visible within the users area until and unless that user logs into the system. Now, if you are using an application which require you to have all the users listed within the system before you even perform any operations on that, then you may need to start force syncing the users. So in the previous video, I've created a simple flow whereby I've just extracted the user ID for the user, and I have force syncs that specific user. Now, you cannot go ahead and run this flow, say, 50 times for the users to be synchronized, right? So, for that, what you may need to do is, like, you need to use the same logic, but then put it under some loop. But before we even go ahead and do all these things, let's first jump into Azure Active Directory. Now, this is the Azure Active Directory. I will go into the users, Microsoft Entra ID, and under that, I'll navigate to users. Now, these are the list of users which is there in my system, and I want to add some set of people. I can either create a group, or maybe for this example, I will assume that, okay, these are the set of users I may need to add. Now, for that, you may need to take in Excel output. So if you see, if I click on download users, I will see that please be aware of the bulk operation service limitation, export users.csv. So it will start giving me the CSV file. So I'll say, okay, give me the Azure AD CSV file, and I'll click on start download. So what it will do, it will iterate through all the users within your tenant, and then it will start giving you that CSV list. Now, with that CSV list, what we will do, we will try to convert that into an Excel file. Okay. Now, in my example, there are like around 15 or 20 users, but in your case, there might be, say, 10,000 users. So, if that is the case, then you may need to perform this operation, which I'm showing you. Now, I've already opened the CSV file. So, let me open the CSV file. So, this is how the CSV file will look like. And these are the various things. Now, it says possible data loss, some feature might be lost, save as. So let me save this file, and this time I'll go to more options, and I'll click on download, and I'll save this as an Excel file. So Azure ADCSV.xlsx. Click on save. Now this is my Excel file. Now there are so many fields which you see over here. So there's a user principal name, there is a display name, there is a surname, there is a mail, given name, ID, user type, and whole bunch of things are currently available. Now, say, let's assume we don't want to add all these people. Let me just, like, cut down. Say, let me delete these users. Okay, so I want these many users to be added into the system. So I've removed the selective row, and this is my particular data set. Now I think I have not deleted it fully. Let me delete it completely. And yes, I have deleted this particular table rows. Now first thing what you need to do is first is form a table, right? So let me go ahead and take this value and call this as a table. So this is where is your data for the table. Yes, my table has header. I'm converted that into a table. Now let me delete the last row, and this is, so I think there are around 6 records. Now if I go into the table design, I can name this table. I will call this as AD as a table name. So this is an important step you need to perform. Now once we have this XLSX file ready, now this is my XLSX file ready. Make sure that you create this file in a proper format so that this file is going to be read by Power Automate. So let me remove all the junk values, and this is my table. Now the only important thing what we want is this one, ID. We will use the ID field, and that will iterate through, and then that will synchronize the users. So let me close this. And now if I go into OneDrive, so let me pick up OneDrive and I'll upload the file which I've just created. So under downloads, Azure AD CSV.xlsx. So I'm pasting that file over here. Okay, so let's go into your Power Automate flow. So let me click back, go to my flows, go to new flow, and go to instant cloud flow and call this as sync users in bulk. Manually trigger a flow, click on create, and here we are going to use the operation sync users. Now that operation sync users you will find somewhere in the bottom, Power Platform for admin force sync user. Now you need to specify the environment name. In my case it is a production environment, so let me confirm that Girish Prod is the production environment, and also the object ID. Now here we need to pass on the object ID from the Excel file one by one. So before we even do that, let's click over here and use an Excel action, list rows. So we have a dataverse action, and then we have list rows present into a table. So list rows present in a table. Let me click that. And from here, I need to specify the location of the Excel file. We know the location of the Excel file is in, say, OneDrive. So OneDrive for business, document library, it's at the root, and the file name is Azure AD CSV.xlsx. Now the table out of that, we have named it as AD, I believe, and that table within that Excel file should show up. Now this is how you reference the table. So it will list down all the rows present within the table. Then we need to get a single row out of it. So get a row, Excel Online for Business. And from here, I will say again, same thing. The location is OneDrive for Business. Document library is OneDrive. File is Azure AD CSV.xlsx. Table name is AD. And the column, the key column. What is the key column? Now, if I open that Excel and show it to you, this is that table which we created, right? And this is that ID column, right? Now I've opened the CSV file, but if I show you the XLSX file, which I have, this is that XLSX file, and we are referring to ID. So let's pick up the ID column. Here, key column is ID, and what is the key value? So here we need to specify what should be the key value of that particular table column. So I will go over here and I'll pick up ID, and that's the ID. Now it has automatically put a for loop because there are more than one record, right? And that's why it does put this value. So we get an ID from here. Now the force sync user field, the action which we have created, let's move here. And within that force sync users, let's pass the user object ID as from an Excel, I'm going to get the ID value. click on save, and then we will test and publish. So the whole goal is to add users within the user area within Power Platform environment. Now, if I click on refresh, I can just see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 users. But once we run the Power Automate flow, then the whole goal is to add the users listed in that Excel file. So technically, we should have Sherman Robbins, Lee to already exist, Alex Wilbur, Archie, and Langer. These users should be added into the system if our flow runs correctly. So let's test this flow now. And it says your flow has run successfully, and it has successfully synchronized the users, I believe. So if I get a green tick, then I think everything should be good. And let me go into the Power Platform, click on refresh. Then as you see, all these users, new users has been added. So it will add one by one. So we didn't had Johnny, Lynn, all those users. And now this flow has run successfully. And as we see over here, this flow has successfully added all these users. Now, if you want to see row by row, you can actually see which ID has been added into the system. So if I just refresh this, I can see a whole bunch of users. Now, just to summarize what we have done, in Power Platform, if you want to add a user, you can add a user individually. But if you have more than say 10 users or 100 users or 10,000 users, you cannot go ahead and add those users individually. For that, you will be using a security group within M365. You will create that security group and add the users within that group. However, the problem is when you add that team in your environment, the users will not be expanded and shown into the user list. Why? Because the user needs to at least log in for the first time, and then they will be shown in the user list. However, in the application, if you have a requirement that you should show all the users within the system, then you need to create a separate flow. Now, in that separate flow, we are not doing anything fancy. We are just using force sync users and just passing the user ID of the user. Now, user ID of the user, if you want to extract user ID of the user, you need to go into M365 Admin Center, go into the user, and then copy the user ID. But we cannot do this manual approach for 50,000 users. For that, you need to go into your Microsoft Azure Enter ID. From there, whatever user group you want, just download the users, format your CSV file which gets downloaded, save it as Excel, upload that Excel into the OneDrive, and then make use of Power Automate Flow and use the Excel Online connector to iterate through the rows and then extract the ID one by one. So this is how you can synchronize the users in bulk in Power Platform environment. Thanks for watching.